Hello and welcome to the CNBC Africa Special. I'm Arnold Segawa. Today we are focusing on the Belt and Road Initiative that is being spearheaded by the Chinese President Xi Jinping. Commitments have been made. We're looking at over $900 billion worth of commitments ranging from India all the way to Sri Lanka, not forgetting the relevant Africa. But today the focus is on the very relevant South Africa. The question remains though, how is the South African story fitting in this particular initiative? This is the CNBC Africa Special.
The Belt and Road Initiative, which is an infrastructure development and integration initiative championed by the Chinese government to boost trade and stimulate economic growth across Asia and beyond. This vision involved China underwriting billions of dollars in infrastructure in countries along the old Silk Road. The BLT conference at WITS University presented an opportunity to strengthen relationships between China and the African continent. Think tanks from both sides shared their views on opportunities, risks, and impacts of the envisioned development of the BRI trade routes on Africa and its development objectives. One of these objectives is to consider South Africa's potential participation in the BRI.
Perhaps we can follow the principle of plan together, build together, and share together for 5 connectivities. The connectivities of policy, connectivity of infrastructure, connectivity of the trade open to each other in the market, connectivity of the finance and people. Finally, we have to get the people involved in building the better world and also benefit the people. Now, the Belt and Road Initiative not only stays as a vision, we are happy already to transform from an idea into action, transform from the vision into reality. Up to now, we are very happy to see that more than 142 countries, region, or international organizations already signed agreement with China for the One Belt, One Road cooperation. And among them, 38 countries, including AU, already signed agreement with China. All those people agreed we need to work together and synergize our development strategy for the win-win cooperation for common development. And now that is some of, I think, to understand the initiative is not difficult. The concept and principle is very simple. Whoever in the world, developed or developing country, whoever want to get developed themselves, they have to start it from the connectivity of the policy, infrastructure, trade, finance, people to people, and that is a very basic 5 connectivities. For what? The main purpose is to work together for win-win cooperation for common development. And that is the theme of the Belt and Road.
But what is the relevance of this initiative for a country like South Africa?
For South Africa, I just think that there's enormous amount of resources, and those resources can be deployed to infrastructural investment of one kind or the other. We know that South Africa is in a difficult economic situation. We know that partly to get out of that challenge, we need to start making investments in infrastructure that address the social challenges, whether it's hospitals or schools or IT or harbors and ports and roads and railway lines and all of that that link the continent together. And so in a sense, that makes a lot of sense for us to be able to access this. So I think that politically, it's fundamentally important that China is coming out into the world in the dramatic way that it does. It shows and demonstrates that then the West, a la the US or Western Europe, are not the sole sources of investment, not the sole sources of developmental finance. And I think that that's absolutely important because that opens up multiple avenues for us, which enhances our negotiating power for the kinds of concessions that we require.
The aim of this BRI is to secure cooperation to support African countries to develop railways, highways, power grids, air transport, and telecommunications to promote African industrial and agricultural modernization, harmonization, and digitalization. The known challenges hindering economic development in Africa was the lack of industrial capacity and infrastructure backlogging.
If we want to attract more investments, we must match the inflow of investments with development of the infrastructure. This is an initiative provides an opportune moment for South Africa to take advantage of that and leverage its own interests on this Belt and Road Initiative. And the audience was very interested. The questions that came from the audience indicated that there's still much more work that we need to do to make the public and the business community in South Africa familiar with the Belt and Road Initiative.
The fruitful discussions is laying the further foundations of the key pillars upon which South Africa's participation in the BRI initiative will be consolidated upon. One of the key outcomes is that we must continue engaging with one another, but at the same time take it to a further step, and that is the practical implementation and identifying South Africa's role in terms of the Belt and Road Initiative by putting in place and finalizing major agreements where we can put into practically the relationship that has thus far been forged between the people of China and the people of South Africa. We can only benefit from participating in the Belt and Road Initiative. That will lead to grow the economy by ensuring that we have access to bigger markets, also ensuring that we further develop our infrastructure, and with that comes the growth of the GDP. But more importantly, it will once again reaffirm South Africa's position as a reliable partner when it comes to the implementation of major projects and honoring international agreements between South Africa and major countries, in this instance in China.
China has found some environments to be more challenging to operate in than expected, and expectations of fast results were disappointed in many target regions. So what makes South Africa so different?
I'm proud to say, this country at least you have three unique advantages. First, the resources. You have the natural resources, the agricultural resources, the ocean resources, the human resources. You are one of the best in the world. The second, you have the good geographic location. You are the only country in the continent open to the whole world, embraced by two oceans. That means you could be not only the main gate of the sub-region, but in my view, could be a production base to support the industrialization and modernization in the continent. We have to get ready for the whole continent here. The third, I think, is the foundation and condition. The foundation in terms of the infrastructure, market mechanism, judicial system, I think is here. It's already, but I have to let you know, the infrastructure is all. If we are not ready, get ready the infrastructure to meet the higher growth rate, how can we expect the job creation? How can we expect have the better development? Now your GDP growth rate is less or under less than 1%. But imagine if this country's GDP come to 3% and 5%, where's the electricity? Where's the railway? So it seems to me we not come here to complain. That is, we come here, we understand the potential and the reality. Now is the time to plan together, build together, and share together. I think this country, I like to work together with your government and your people. We are here.
So it's clear that there is a convergence of interests around this initiative and in economic development. But it's not just about infrastructure.
It's about industrialization, it's about inclusive economic growth. And I think the opportunities from a financial perspective, but also from a project perspective, that the Belt and Road Initiative provide are things that we in South Africa should link up with our own thinking and our own priorities, and actually come up with very specific, concrete projects, ideas that we can then implement in a fairly speedy way, because I think if there's one lesson that I think we've all taken from President Ramaphosa over the last year is that, we're needing to get it on top of inequality, unemployment, and poverty. This is not a new thing, but I think there's a renewed energy from the government, and I think this is an ideal opportunity. It also has wider implications, because we shouldn't be thinking, and I think this is where the Belt and Road comes from. We shouldn't be thinking only nationally, because our economy can be a springboard to the rest of certainly our region, our immediate region, Southern Africa. And so it's also about creating connectivities within the region. This is all part of the Agenda 2063 vision anyway. But here we have in the Belt and Road initiative an opportunity to actually put some of those ideas into a partnership to actually roll out, creating regional value chains, regional corridors, opportunities for hubs from which goods and people and services can actually make their way into the hinterland, into the broader Southern African region.
While the BRI may be a concern to other African countries, China is also supportive of Africa's homegrown development plan as set out in the African Union's Agenda 2063, which is to build on and seeks to accelerate the implementation of past and existing continental initiatives for growth and sustainable development.
At the end of the day, the key thing about this BRI, it's really all about also an industrial global value chain. For emerging countries like South Africa, that's what we're looking for. We're looking for an industrial value chain that would be able to absorb our small enterprises, the small ones that cannot break in with the large companies here, and all these things. Taking in mind also that there are various aspects in the Belt and Road industry. I'm going to talk about the aviation industry. So and then there's also the rail industry. I mean, we see the Kenya example of what recently happened, the connection with Ethiopia, and I think Djibouti also. So from an aviation industry, in terms of our roots and interconnection with the global aviation industry, which has now become a major market, it would be a big plus for us to engage. I mean, right now, most of our planes have shut down on many countries in the world. So maybe this will be one way for us to now get back and become part of the global aviation market. Because like I say, it's a major, it's a $1 trillion industry.
The Belt and Road Conference at WITS University opened itself up to the media, researchers, and the public to engage directly with the African and Chinese experts on the BRI and South Africa's possible involvement. But could this initiative cause an opening of some sort of retaliation from the global North and the West?
If China is putting hundreds of billions of dollars out, and you decide that you want to put hundreds of billions of dollars out to match it, well and good. I think the developing world benefits. Then your big issue is, what is your negotiating terms? From which one? One of the things that we do know that often came from the West are conditionalities. And some of those conditionalities were okay, but some of those conditionalities were destructive to our societies. Part of the conditionalities of structural adjustment in the 1980s was the destruction of Africa's universities. Now, we don't want to see that kind of conditionalities imposed on us. And so China, if the US counter-offers with multiple hundreds of billions of dollars, well and good. Then we look at the negotiation terms, and those resources can only benefit the developing world. I think it creates new opportunities. Let's not be deluded. Of course, the Chinese have their own foreign policy agendas. You don't put up hundreds and billions of dollars simply for charity's sake. They have their own agendas. They want to make sure their footprint in the world is enhanced. They've got foreign policy obligations. I understand that. That's logical, and probably they will have their own political machinations. That I understand. The trick for us is to make sure that we can create a coincidence of interest. Their interests coincide with us, and on terms that we are comfortable with. That's what this does. So let's say we're looking to build a dam, or we're building to look at IT infrastructure and we need resources. And what we need to do is we can go to the Chinese, or we can go to the Europeans, or we can go to the US. And the terms may very well differ, and there may be terms that come from the Chinese that are more in tune with our developmental objectives, and that's our right to then focus on.
China has made many commitments to the African continent over the past few years. But what about the China-South African commitments surrounding the BRI?
As you know, I'm very proud to say that His Excellency President Xi Jinping attached great importance to China-African relations. Within 5 years, he pays 4 state visits to this continent, and 3 of them came to this country. And you can imagine when he holds 2 of the 3 focus summits in the history. And each of the summits he holds, in 2015, when he came here, he announced China-African 10 major cooperation plan plus 60 billion restored. And this year in September in Beijing, he announced another China-African cooperation major initiative plus 60 billion restored. All the commitment, the main purpose of his commitment is to have this to work together with continent. We are ready to work together with this continent to have this continent to break the 3 bottlenecks. That is the backward infrastructure, the lack of the professional skilled personnel, and the sort of financial support. This continent, you have a lot of natural resources, and human resources, you have a lot. But why we lag behind? You lack of 3 bottlenecks. That is, I mentioned, lack of infrastructure, the professional skilled personnel, and financial support. And my president, he come here, you see the 10 major cooperation plan plus all the major initiative. He plus 60 billion restored. Not only come here to have the empathy talk, but also plus not only the plan, but plus the US dollar. And now China, as you know, whenever my president or my premier, the leader of China, when he announced and promised, we have no choice but to implement. And within the framework of the FOCA, every 3 years, China, we have to sit together with Afghan to answer the question, how about the outcome and result? I'm proud to say, we always honor the commitment made by China, our leaders.
Professor Garth Shelton reflected at the conference the importance of the development lessons China brought as part of the BRI and gave emphasis to that Africa should learn from these practices that helped China lift 780 million people out of poverty. However, this wasn't all that he noticed at the conference.
I think there was a common perspective that China-South Africa relations are very important and actually growing in importance. And this Belt and Road Initiative, I think, is going to drive the process. It's going to be very important in the next 10 years or even longer. And I think what's going to come from this seminar is a lot more seminars, a lot more discussions, perhaps a Belt and Road kind of forum or a Belt and Road think tank, which actually can drive the process forward. And I see very positive outcomes as a result of this seminar.
Africa was already a key focus of the BRI as a growth region. But other than infrastructure, what other benefits are there for South Africa to participate in this initiative?
The Belt and Road Initiative has a lot of potential for South Africa. You know, it can help South Africa to connect to the rest of the continent. It can help it to connect to China. It can also help it to use some of the networks of the Belt and Road to connect easily to Europe, to the Middle East, to India. So, you know, so there's a lot of potential there. I think what the next, you know, step would be for the South African government to set forth actual concrete projects that they would like to do, and that, you know, that they feel would actually boost South Africa's development agenda. Because, you know, that's, you know, connecting to the Belt and Road is one side of the challenge. The other side is to make sure that you're connecting in a way that actually helps South Africans.
The BRI is it's come at the right time, And in terms of South Africa, I think that brings in lots of opportunities, as we do need to also, as you know, try and get more investments, and because that's what this is really about. This is basically a geographic economic route that's designed to promote development. At the end of the day, though, it depends on each country how it strategizes its methodology of taking advantage of this process. I sometimes am very surprised when people say, especially South Africans, hey, we don't need investors. Who needs investors? And I'm thinking, you know, how did you think China developed? It was investors who went to Shenzhen and all those, and the SEZ. So we need investors here.
The potential for the South African economy is immense. We've seen the summit that was hosted, firstly the job summit by President Ramaphosa, and then thereafter the investment summit that took place. And all of those reflect South Africa's seriousness and the government's seriousness in growing the economy, creating more jobs for our people, fighting poverty, inequality and unemployment.
So this country, whoever in the world want to develop or sustain the economy, we have to start it from two things. One is infrastructure development. Infrastructure not only port or seaport, but a system. The railway, the highway, the airport, the seaport, the communication, the water, the electricity supply. We need to have the comprehensive development plan and make it happen. The second is capacity building. In China, the human capital is #1 priority in China. We invest a lot. Every family tie their belt, save their cents, but to put their kid in the best education. My president, my government, my party put education always #1 priority. But now, every year we have about 7 million graduates from university and colleges. We have another 4 to 5 million graduates from vocational technical school. So now China is ready to fly. So that is the way we like to come together with South Africa. The foundation is here because now you already hold 2 summits, Job Summit and Investment Summit. Job is the key to solve the problem of poverty. Job is the key, but job only comes from investor for production, visitor for tourism. We are ready to work together with your government, your party, your people, your country. Let us work together. We love to see something happen, visible and tangible.
Academics from China also interacted with the media to share their inputs of how this initiative is the next phase of globalization and a step towards a more positive outcome.
I think the conference is very important in terms of, firstly, to inform the audience what has been going on, what are the advantages, what are the disadvantages for South Africa's position in terms of engaging with China for BRR corporations in future. So I think today various colleagues and ambassadors and officials, they already threw enough information for the people to consume, to digest. Me personally, I feel very impressed that the audience asked so many very interesting questions, such as the youth issue. They understood very correctly that from Africa, there are so many youth who have very interesting ideas already, and then how to harness them, how the official initiative can benefit them. And then so those questions like this, I think is super important. And then so which can inspire, can urge the officials to reflect all those kind of need. Otherwise, they will make policies from their understandings. And now the audience is engaging with the officials, then scholars are contributing to giving more facts, more understandings. So therefore, for me, the workshop like this is super important for the future.
I think the conference is quite important to further promote the understanding about both China and Africa, and it's also a very good opportunity for people from different fields of studies, from academia, from enterprise, or students, professors, to exchange the ideas, to different perspectives and different understandings about our BRR program. So this is, it offers a platform, right, to further promote our understanding, right? And also, this for me, this is the first time to be here, but it's really impressive to attend such a conference. So for me, I learned a lot. It almost altered my understanding of Africa. This is really, really perfect. Yeah.
And that's where we'll leave it for the CNBC Africa special. We are seeing a country that is no stranger to the African continent. That is, of course, China, but more precisely, a borderless globe where the two parties are actually coming together for a win-win situation. That's where we'll leave it. I'm Arnold Segoa. Have a good day.